There are coasters you know are intense, ones that are said to be intense but really aren't, and then there are those select few that are really just unsuspectingly intense. Today, I'm going to be giving a countdown of some of these unsuspecting coasters that I have ridden. These will sort of be in order, but won't be super specific in any way. I'll obviously describe what makes it unsuspecting to me, and the elements that make it this way. So, to start out the list, let's have some kiddie coasters and family coasters. There's also going to be quite a bit of video from other channels used in this video, so I'll be making sure to credit them throughout the video, and don't forget to check them all out. Number 16, Woodstock Express at King's Dominion. When I was at King's Dominion, my group almost skipped over this since it had a long line most of the day, and it just looked like a kiddie/family coaster, so it wasn't really important to us. So keep in mind that there were 8 of us that day, and most of us are full-grown adults, and really big guys. So we really had the train weighed down. To add on to it, there were some parents riding up with their kids in the front, so we really had this train weighed down with a lot of adults. Going down the first drop, there was actually some surprising floater air, and the train took the turns faster than normal, or at least I assume so. There was also this one insane ejector moment on the ride. Matt and I were just kind of sitting next to each other, and we were laughing about how intense the ride was for a ride in the kids area, and all of a sudden we just fly out of our seats. Not sure if we got a great ride on it or it actually runs like this all the time. Either way, this PTC Junior wooden coaster is clearly unsuspecting. This actually ended up being our group's favorite wooden coaster at King's Dominion, so that's pretty impressive. Number 15, Blazing Fury at Dollywood. So this ride is more of a dark ride than a coaster, but it does have a few drops. I rode with Chris on this in the back row, and we had a really loose lap bar since I didn't know it actually did anything, and we didn't really bother to make sure it was touching a laps or anything. On the first drop of this thing, we came right out of our seats, and there was some really good airtime, and same thing with the other drops too. So my suggestion is, definitely don't skip out on this in-house coaster at Dollywood, and definitely ride towards the back when you ride it. Also not to mention, it's a fun dark ride, so either way, don't skip out on it. Number 14, Slime Streak at Nickelodeon Universe in the American Dream Mall. This is a Chance Rides family coaster that meanders around the park and is said to have been forceless. Personally, I can definitely agree that it doesn't have any positive forces whatsoever, but I've really enjoyed this coaster. When sitting in the back row, on the first drop, you get these insane laterals that you feel like you're going to get ripped out of the train from. Also not to mention, you get some great airtime going down that drop as well, and the next few hills. The pacing is kept throughout this layout, and it just hauls ass throughout the entire park, and you really get a great sense of speed. Overall, I didn't expect this coaster to be that good, especially after hearing different reviews saying that it was forceless and boring. Chance Rides should definitely make more of these, and parks should definitely get them too. They're honestly fun rides, they just need to fix the trains. Number 13, Big Thunder Mountain at Disney World's Magic Kingdom. The last time I rode this was in April of 2015, so I don't remember it too well, but from what I remember, this coaster has some awesome, intense airtime over some of the hills up in the front row. Also, on some of those turns, if you're sitting alone, there's no seat divider or individual lap bars, so you'll be sliding across the seats with those insane laterals this ride pulls too. This is a great introductory ride for someone who's never ridden a coaster before. It's smooth, not too intimidating, but gives some great forces. At the time, I was riding with a friend who had never ridden a coaster, so it worked out really well. Seeing it was a Disney coaster, I didn't expect much out of it, but to be honest, I was pleasantly surprised and can't wait to go back to Disney and hop on this thing again. Such a great mine train, probably my favorite. Number 12, Wild Waves at Playland's Castaway Cove. This ride is a hit or miss. If you ride in the back, it's a fun family coaster. However, in the front, the airtime delivers. Every hill has strong floater and I absolutely love it. The ride is a little janky, but I think that kind of adds to the overall intensity. Also not to mention, the way the airtime hills are shaped, you float out of your seat and kind of stay floating, and then when you hit the valleys, you slam back down with this ride's really surprising positives. I didn't expect this ride to be intense, but I got a really unsuspecting ride out of it. And honestly, if you're going to be hitting the New Jersey boardwalk parks, definitely do not skip over this park. I know Gale Force has its negative reviews since it used to be quote-unquote rough back in 2017, but personally, I didn't think that, and these are some of the best coasters on the Jersey Shore, and I definitely recommend you do not skip over these. Number 11, Dragonflier at Dollywood. This new for 2019 Vekoma Suspended coaster was a smash hit. This is one of my favorite family coasters, and was way better than expected. The first drop going into that overbank turn really packs the G's. Also not to mention, the near miss element with the fountains is amazing. I really thought I was going to kick the water. I really wish more of these Vekoma Suspended coasters would come around in the United States. They're great for kids and pack enough intensity to where everyone can enjoy them. Number 10, Backlot Stunt Coaster at King's Dominion. This coaster pulls the G's. After a short launch, you fly into a super powerful helix. After that, the ride doesn't really have anything super intense, except in the indoor section there was a few moments where I remember slamming into the side of the train from laterals. However, I can't remember any specific moment. Overall, great ride, and don't overlook it when you go to the park, and definitely ride it. Number 9. Ragin' Cajun at Six Flags America. Going into this, I thought it was just going to be an average spinning mouse, but my god, this thing is great. By far the smoothest Zamperla spinning mouse I've ridden, and it spins like crazy at the end. Definitely don't skip out, and try to unbalance the car when you ride it. However, this is not the most intense spinning coaster I've ridden. Number 8. Pandemonium at Six Flags New England. This was the first Gerstlauer spinning coaster I rode, and it did not disappoint. Even if you don't spin on these rides, they can still be fun. The first time I went on this, a friend and I sat on one side, and on the other side there were two kids who probably didn't even weigh 100 pounds combined. We ended up spinning like crazy. If you get a trimless ride on this, which usually isn't hard because the trims don't hit at all, and if they do, it's very slight, you get some good floater moments on some of the hills. If you're spinning fast, the airtime feels much crazier. If you're at Six Flags New England, try not to skip out on this one, and definitely hit it earlier in the day, because the line can get pretty long. Number 7. Runaway Mine Train at Six Flags Great Adventure. Most Aero mine trains are janky, slow, and provide a decent family ride. However, this mine train is unsuspectingly intense, and in good ways and bad ways. The ride pulls some intense forces for a family coaster, and it's a great stepping stone into the 48-inch coasters at Great Adventure, like Joker and El Toro. Now you might say, El Toro? With that intense airtime, how could it compare? Right after an intense, janky helix that pulls some decent G's, you drop down into a tiny drop with a sharp transition, which if you're in the back row, you get a pop of air. However, in the front row, you're about to fly out of your seat with some Magnum XL 200 style airtime, just on a smaller scale. You can actually hear the train slamming into the track over this hill, and then slamming back down. This is due to the upstop pads on the bottom of the train, instead of the upstop wheels. This ride doesn't have wheels, so the pads just kind of slam into the track, so don't worry, this isn't an abnormal sound. This is actually one of the best airtime hills in the whole park, right behind Toro and maybe even Nitro. A lot of people will rave about Skull Mountain's mediocre floater on the drop, when in reality, they're missing out on Mine Train's ejector air. The ride also has other intense moments too. The first helix coming right off the lift hill provides some good forces, with a little bit of positives and even some laterals. Also not to mention, the train just unnaturally speeds up. On the second helix, after the mid-course brake run, the ride pulls some decent positives. If you're a fan of painful laterals for some reason, the helix also gives that too on one transition when it goes up into that flat part before the airtime hill. There's no wonder that kids love this ride and will line up for a half an hour to 45 minutes just to ride it over and over again. It surprisingly also has some of the highest ridership in the park and ends up in the top 10 rides for ridership. And one last note, you can't forget about that end over the water. Now I'm going to transition to some more intense rides, starting with number 6, Alpine Bobsleds at Six Flags Great Escape. I didn't know what to expect out of this ride, but it certainly wasn't intensity. If you've ridden rides like Avalanche at King's Dominion or flying turns like Knoebels, this ride is nothing like those. This is by no means the best coaster in the park, but I would definitely say it's the most intense. This ride has surprised me both times I've ridden it. Beware though, this thing slams you around. Hard. There are some turns that the car feels like it pops off the track, and you float in your seat for a few seconds. This ride feels super out of control, and I love it. I have a feeling this ride doesn't have too much life left in it though, so I recommend a trip to Great Escape for the awesome park and the great 1-2 punch with this and Comet. Number 5, Anaconda at King's Dominion. Unlike 99% of people, I actually liked this coaster. It isn't even that rough, and it has some fun, intense moments. I rode this in the back twice, and honestly I loved it. The drop whips you in a fun and janky way, and I really love that aero jank, but not a lot of people do, unfortunately. After that, the ride doesn't do too much, but since the ride trims really hard on the mid-course, the corkscrews are taken very slow, and this provides some amazing hang time. I wasn't expecting this at all, and I loved it. I'm a huge aero fan, and can't wait to get back down to King's Dominion to not only ride I-305 and Twisted Timbers, but this fantastic supporting coaster. Number 4, S&S Freespins at various parks. These rides are often seen as just okay since they're cloned, so they automatically get the hate. However, every time I ride one, I'm surprised and get an intense ride. The rocking and spinning is just so much fun in my opinion, and I love the unpredictable nature of these rides. I've mentioned that I worked Joker back in 2018 at Great Adventure, and I test rode it a lot. I always have a good time on these rides, and I know how to ride them. Always make sure to kick your legs in certain spots. If you've never ridden one of these, I highly recommend you do, so head out to the closest park with one of these and check them out. And don't go into the mindset that they're clones, because if you think that it's a bad clone or it's mediocre, you'll just find it mediocre. But you might be pleasantly surprised if you also think that mindset. Just go into it with, you're gonna have fun. I had a friend who had that same mindset, and he ended up really enjoying it and ended up putting it in his top 10. I have them in my top 50. I don't think they're that good, but they're certainly a great ride, and they're always a great supporting coaster. When there's one of these at a park, I always look forward to riding them. They're super fun. Number 3, Gemini at Cedar Point. I went to Gemini expecting a fun, oversized aero mine train. Instead, I got an airtime and lateral packed fun ride with amazing interaction from the other train. On every hill you get some nice pops of floater, and there's just one turn that rips you out of your seat and slams you into the side with some laterals in the back row. This was one of those coasters that was just pure fun, and I rode it like 5 or 6 times when I went to Cedar Point. Overall, a great classic, and I hope it doesn't go anytime soon. Number 2, Blue Streak at Cedar Point. I was expecting Blue Streak to be a fun, classic wooden coaster, and I got that, but with a little bit more. My friend Zach, who had been to Cedar Point in 2013, told me this ride packed the airtime. I went on and expected some good floater. Nope. Instead, the first few hills were insane ejector. This is an awesome PTC Woody, and it definitely deserves some credit for its age. Speaking of rides who deserve credit for their age, number 1, Wild One at Six Flags America. I was going into this expecting a good ride with some floater air, very similar to Comet at Great Escape or Blue Streak at Cedar Point, as just mentioned. I mean, it's over 100 years old. Could it be that good? Yup. This ride has amazing airtime. If the ride still had buzz bars, it would probably rival Phoenix for being one of the top Woodies in the world. This is the only ride here that is in my top 20 coasters. Everything else is somewhere around the top 50 and beyond. This ride is intense and packs tons of great ejector airtime in the first half, floater in the second half, and the ending with that insane helix that throws you into the side of your train with no mercy. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Throw down some unsuspecting coasters that you've ridden down in the comments below, and make sure to leave a like if you're new around here and consider subscribing for more content. Seeing my boost in views and subs lately has been motivating me to make more videos, so it really helps me out when you guys watch or subscribe. Anyways, once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.